of the simplest ways to connect with your values, to think about them and then translate them into action in the day. And you can do that written, or you can do that, you can do that as a reflective contemplation sort of meditation, or as you're walking around. And they've done, they've got 15 years worth of information and data on values interventions, and specifically that one. And, it shows time and time again to be so useful. And there was one study, a couple of professors from Stanford looked at the 15 years worth of research on values. And, they looked for patterns. And one they found was particularly around stress resilience, that it enabled us to reframe stress, to feel like we had more agency in the face of stress, to go through struggle, to manifest and live what we care about. And that's really, the huge benefit of them is around that. There's other benefits as well and other ways of using it, but really it is that tool to help with resilience. So useful for these mindset sessions. In a way, it's one of the key messages from these months that we've been doing together and sharing together, which has been lovely, by the way. I'll just acknowledge that again. It's been great to connect with you all each morning. So today we're going to do another written practice, and we're thinking about how to use values to help with behavior change, and again to bring it into the lockdown corona context, the life we're in now, the hugely different life with a lot more constraints. And so grab your notepads and get yourself comfortable, and we'll run through a practice again to use this. So values have been shown to be really useful for behavior change. There's good studies on things like quitting smoking and health and diet changes and various health practices, but also kind of the ability to continue in the face of adversity with work and kind of avoid procrastination and things. They've done studies on that as well. So we're going to use it to help us with habits. So the first thing to write about is in terms of, thinking about a behavior or habit that's been coming up during lockdown that you want to change, you want to work on. So something you would call a bad habit, something that might relate to the difficult emotions that you've been experiencing at times, or difficult stresses and the way you respond. And so we want to map out a habit or behavior that we want to change. So some examples, and we've talked about these a lot on calls, would be, something like procrastination. We've talked about a lot. That could come up in the lockdown context. Addictions might have shown up. It might not be the most severe end of the addiction scale, but habits, ways of using food, alcohol, other behaviors that it has that slightly addictive. You don't have the flexibility to choose when you do the thing. It's kind of owning you. The autopilot's coming on, and before you know it, you're doing the thing that you're trying to resist. And so that would be one. Anger, irritation. A lot of people have been talking about this in lockdown. We're in this stressful environment, which in the UK at least is opening up, but there's still a lot of constraints, and you spend a lot more time in your house, and that can bring up a lot of irritation. So anger and how that plays out in relationships might be another one. Or avoiding social engagement. Sometimes people are getting so kind of bored of on-screen stuff, or their own mood has gone down, and then it becomes quite easy to start avoiding seeing people. So avoidance might be another kind of habit we might want to work on. And so that's the first one. Just write out this habit. Make sure you have it nice and clear. Hopefully that's easy enough. Most people have at least one habit they want to change. Occasionally, people don't, and that's great. Keep doing what you're doing. But if you have something, just write it down. So that's step one. Step two is, what thoughts and emotions do you tend to notice trigger this habit? So what comes before? Is it stress? Is it anxiety? Is it sadness? Is it anger? Is it boredom? What are the typical emotions? Might be a whole load of them. what kind of thoughts? Is it worry? Is it self-criticism, self-attack? Is it rumination about the past? Is it obsession about a specific thing? What kind of thoughts and feelings do you think come before it? And if you're not clear on that, that would be one to really look out for. Try and catch what's happening before you do the habit. And it can be very subtle, and it can build up for quite a bit of time before the habit. And we'll move quickly through this again with the idea of time. Yeah, for me, learning to let it go and relax, not signing up to thousands of things to feel useful. Yeah, I think that's great. Sometimes we can overdo stuff as well. So learning how to kind of pace ourselves. People will either be deactivated, or they might be over activated, and that can have issues as well. So I think that's a great example. So that could be one to work on. Thanks for sharing that. And if anyone else wants to share their examples, it's always helpful. And so we've got these emotions that come before it. So that could be, with that example, it might be we're feeling restless. We might have an inner critic saying, I've got to do more to prove my worth. It might be boredom that makes us do lots and lots of things, or it might be to distract us from other difficulties. So for everyone, it's going to be very specific what comes first. Then the next one is, what sensations and thoughts do you actually notice about the urge itself? When the urge comes up, what do you feel in your body? The classic example is the chocolate bar. Do you feel that restlessness? Do you feel your hand reaching for it? Do you have visions of how delicious and amazing it will be, and it'll solve all your problems? What is going on in your body and mind as you catch the urge? So once the emotion has triggered it, what's the urge like for you? And for some people, it's a real agitation and restlessness. For other people, it's quite a shutdown, kind of numbness. It could be, it could show up in many different ways. So what do you notice about the urge? And then we're going to bring in, and I'll run through these steps. We'll bring in a value to connect with. So far we've got a habit or behavior to change in lockdown. We've then got the thoughts and emotions that precede it, the sensations and thoughts that make up the urge. And now we want to switch into what's the value that's going to help us to resist this and to focus on where we want to go in life. So values such as challenge, courage, encouragement, fitness, freedom, persistence, pleasure, savoring, self-control, all of these sorts of values could help us, and you may have some others. And then also bringing in any goals that reflect those values. So goals around, with the anger one, it might be to listen more. With procrastination, it might be to do single task focus for periods of time. For eating and health, you'll have your own specific health goals. Do you want to eat more healthily? Do you want to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full? Do you want to achieve certain things in your fitness goals? And of course, Mob Group Live have lots of that going on. So hopefully you've got some clear goals from all the classes and things you've been doing as well. And then, socializing, if you're shutting down and avoiding, how often do you want to meet and see people? So values and goals. And then finally, an alternative action. So what can we do that's value-based? So something that reflects where we want to go in life, a towards move as opposed to a away move. So away move from the difficulty is the kind of avoidance piece. Towards move is going towards our values. So the type of person we want to be. What's a healthy alternative? Eating healthily, certain amount of times a day, rewards after we've worked hard, if we're procrastinating. So when we can do the procrastination thing once we've finished, self-care habits, how we're going to look after our health, our well-being, and then of course we've got response delay. So delaying the urge. So even if we can't resist it, let's at least delay it so we get more able to push out the time between the urge and then eating the chocolate bar. And then, to slip mindfully when we do eat the chocolate bar or whatever it might be, to do it really mindfully, be really aware, noticing how we feel, what's going on as we do it. And gradual exposure, if we've got difficulties that we're avoiding, can we gradually push into them? So there's some ideas for alternative action. So I'll run through that again. If you haven't managed to get all those steps, do it after the session. But we've got noting down the habit and behavior we want to change. What are the thoughts and emotions that precede it? What are the sensations and thoughts that make up the urge? What's a value to connect with, and goals that could support you in resisting this? And then what's a healthy alternative action you can do when this urge comes up to look after yourself, but that reflects your values. And for those who've done these calls before, you'll notice this is really urge surfing, but done as a written practice. So we can add other things into this when we do it as a practice. We can add in the dropping anchor skills, so using our body, our breath, our environment as an anchor, and then the present moment task as an anchor. We can use self-compassion ads, self-compassionate self-talk to talk ourselves through it, to guide ourselves through what we're doing, and to acknowledge the pain, but to encourage ourselves to do other things. We can do perspective taking. We can add that in, if it's anger and conflict. So there's lots we could add into this process, but very simply it's urge surfing. So we'll do it quickly. We've got 3 minutes left, so we'll do it quickly as a practice. Come back to the written stuff if you haven't got through it all, and then to try and use it today. So sitting comfortably, and it might feel like we're moving into the practice quickly, but that's good. We don't want to have hours and hours to settle and to get ready. We want to be able to go straight into these skills, because that's when they're going to come up. So sitting comfortably, potentially closing your eyes, or you can gently look in front of you, and imagining this habit that you wanted to change, and the urge coming up, and the emotions that come up before the urge, and notice and name those. So practice what that would be. So that might be, okay, I notice that I'm feeling bored, heavy, tired. I'm feeling anxious or stressed. I'm feeling angry. I notice I'm having thoughts about the past or the future. Okay, I notice I'm having the urge to procrastinate, to avoid something, to eat something, do something, to follow an addiction. So notice and name the thoughts and feelings and the urge. And you can have some curiosity here. You can add in curiosity as well. Where is it located? What's the shape? If you were going to characterize it as an object, how does this urge feel? And as we're doing this, we can drop anchor, we can breathe, connect with our body. We can use self-compassion to say, this is tough, this is difficult, but I can move through this. We can use perspective taking to go, what is that other person thinking? What are they going through right now? And once we've done all of that, connecting with our values. So what value is going to help you? Is it courage? Is it self-control? Is it fitness? Is it freedom, persistence? What are the values and then the goals that will help you? What are you aiming to do rather than this? And then to take action. So what healthy alternative are we going to do? And picture yourself doing it. And as you do it, the urge will still be there in the background. And we want to just notice it and come back to what we're doing. Notice and come back. So we're having this flexible attention in the moment. And so we'll run through it very quickly again. Notice and name what's going on. Okay, I notice I'm having the urge to do X. What are my values and goals that would support me? Okay, self-control, health. And then what am I going to do as an alternative? Okay, I'm going to go for a walk outside and take a few deep breaths. Picture myself doing that, go and do that. The urge is still there, notice it, come back. So we've moved quite rapidly through the practice just to kind of show how we use this in the moment, but the written piece is helpful to expand it out, to get really clear on what we're tackling, what we're working with. So if you didn't have time to do that there, because we're moving quickly, as always in these shorter sessions, take some time today to go through those steps. and then also to practice this practice as it comes up. And, you know, if we slip, recommit, come back to the habit you're trying to work on. So I hope that that was clear, how, you know, how we use values to really support behavior change. And it's an ongoing thing, and some things are harder to shift and change than others. So, you know, just to keep working at them, keep using the values, and go for some easy ones as well, some low hanging fruit, if you'll pardon the pun, you know, with behavior change. You know, instead of the chocolate bar, go for the low hanging fruit. So what are some kind of, you know, easy habits you could work on? If your really tough habits are really sticky, what's something that you can resist a lot of the time and you could get a bit better at? That can be a way of practicing this, getting the momentum on something easier.